Sharp came here, coming at you from chooseyourrelationships.com. Now, a couple of days ago, I was talking to one of my friends, and I've known him for pretty much all my life, for over 30 years, 35 years. And he was asking me what I thought about interracial relationships, right? So I told him I didn't really think too much of it at all. I mean, people can date who they want to date as long as you don't lose yourself, as long as you know what you're doing. That's all I would say. But everyone has their own perception of who they date and whatnot. I understand that. A lot of people don't know the politics that comes into play. But what he really wanted to know is why do they promote interracial relationships on television more? Specifically, why do they promote black males being with white women versus black women being with white guys? You don't see black women being with white guys being promoted on television. Now you got a couple shows like Scandal, but every once in a while you might see a movie, but they're promoting the image of black males being with white women a lot. And it's pretty much been like that, man. I mean, they've been going hard for at least 15 years now, probably more than that. But you don't see the image of white guys, white guys with black women very much. That's somewhat of a taboo topic, taboo subject. Of course it happens, but it's not put out in front through the mainstream media. So he asked me, why do I think that is? So, first thing I told him, I said, well, you know what? You can't really prove anything. I don't really have any proof of anything. And, I was taught this in the military. It's not what you know, it's what you can prove. And that in itself is a part of the problem. Because most people living in America, they're not going to believe anything unless a white person is doing the talking, or they see it on television or in the newspaper. So outside of that, the average person is just not going to believe anything you say or I say unless they're on another platform or unless they're white. Now, I mean, if it really makes sense if you really think about it, because people are being brainwashed to believe certain things, and they're being conditioned to believe certain things, and they don't really care about the truth. They just, the younger people, they care about the truth. But once most people get past the age of 30, 35, they're locked in. They just like things to be comfortable, whatever that is for them. But let's take a white guy, and a black woman, they let's say they let's say they get married. They have kids. Kids grow up. They get to be, maybe teenage years. They go to school. They have experiences. So what happens is, like, when the kid grow up, if the mother's white, or if the mother's black, either or, it really doesn't matter. But let's just say, from my experience, when you have blacks and whites getting together, most of the time the kids are confused about who they are, about their identity, and who should they identify with, and all kinds of stuff. See, the white parent, for the most part, especially if it's a white woman, they kind of don't really want to tell the kids the truth. So they'll say, hey, you're black, you're white, you're biracial. So the kids will go out there getting beat up through life, sometimes physically, sometimes mentally. So they'll, one thing I can say, most white guys will be honest with their kids. They'll tell them, you're not white. They'll tell them. They'll be honest with them. They'll be honest with them. But most white women I've known through my life, they're usually not going to tell the kids the truth. They'll say you're biracial. But when they're out in the world, people don't see them as biracial. That's the thing. When you're functioning through society, and it could, of course, you're going to get different reactions, and people see you differently depending on where you live at in the country. Of course. But for the most part, the law says, this is public policy, by the way. It's not something I'm making up. The law says you are who your parents is, who your father is. If your father's black, you're black. That's how that is. If your father's white, you're white. Now, this is public policy. Look this up. You can look this up on the internet. Yeah, this was created probably like 200 years ago. So a lot of people call it the onedrop rule. They said, if your father's black, you're black. So you are who your father is. That's how that is, right? But all of a sudden, they came out with this biracial crap, saying that, and biracial, that's a political phrase that they came out with. It came about through the survey. That's how the biracial thing came out. That came out through the survey, because they whenever they want to tweak the numbers as far as the population in the United States of America, they'll come up with new categories. So if the numbers aren't the way they want it to be, they'll just create another category. So they'll say, okay, let's come out with a new category called biracial, or Pacific Islander, or it could be anything. And this happens every 15, 20 years. They'll just come out with new categories. So what happens is, when a lot of these interracial couples have kids, their kids is all confused and they're being taken advantage of in society, and they'll get used to do certain things and to accomplish certain things. See, in the military, they call these people buffers. So a buffer could be anybody. A buffer could be somebody, basically somebody that you want to use to do the dirty work. Because these people, they don't identify with black, and they're not white either. So they're not accepted on either side. That's their mentality, right? So what happens is some agency will approach them and bribe them and give them an offer they can't refuse, and get them to do a lot of the dirty work that they don't want to do. So you can't say, so the white person can't, if there's a white person behind it, which is most of the time it usually is, you can't say they're being racist because he wasn't there. He hired somebody to do it. So in the military, that's what they call a buffer. So in another 20, 30, 40 years, you're going to have a lot of Amber Rose types, Kim Kardashian types walking around. Well, Drake, a lot of those types walking around America trying to act black, and they're gonna be oppressing and doing all the dirty work for these big institutions. So this is the reason why they promote interracial relationships between black males and white women so hard. Now keep in mind, I have no proof of this. But being that I was in the military, I understand military strategy. Now, you might not understand military strategy. You might not have no clue about how the military operates at all. And that's cool. I understand that. You can do what you want to do. You can date who you want to date. But just know that everything is not what it seems all the time. That's my point. So if you like what you heard, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Check out my blog, chooseyourrelationships.com. And if you join the movement, man, donate if you will, so I can keep this thing going. Just give me some feedback if you like what you heard. Thumbs up, thumbs down, whichever case. Until next time, Sharp Keem is out.